Hello. Today is the 22nd day of August, September 2013, and I'm back here to discuss with you some of the findings I found on my insurance claim against State Farm, whom is basically refusing to offer me any assistance in resolving the problem that was covered under a policy. It was a comprehensive collision. The complaint was dirt and soap poured in all the underhood fluids, and at least one vehicle had the detergent stuff poured in the fuel tank, which gummed up the entire fuel system. It wouldn't even run. If you try to drive it, you lay the throttle flat on the floor and it just barely put along. And I got some notes here from my lab reports, which is considerably different from what their technician documented. Got some notes here, but I'm going to read them to them because it's going to be hard for y'all to see. September 5, 2012, drained engine oil, sent it to a lab for analysis. And about 3 days before this sample was collected, State Farm did the same, and their report said nothing particular about it. It was within normal limits. Yeah, I think the iron was around 20, which is normal. There was a little bit of soot. Viscosity was good. And after I got the report back, it was normal. And I called the lab and I said, I want you to run a particle count on this fluid, which they did. And I come back with an ISO code, cleanliness code, of 20-20-17. Rated as abnormal for only having maybe 30 minutes of runtime on that oil. And when the previous filter was removed, there was no grit or anything on it. It was pretty normal based on industry standards. And that particular fluid, if you rubbed it in your fingers and just kept rubbing it, it would begin to feel like a cleanser, just gritty. And I had the same experience with 3 different vehicles in about 7 or 8 different fluids. There was some red oxy-colored stone, very fine powder. The particle size is small enough it will pass through the filter with a very, very limited opposition. Because basically a filter is not going to stop anything smaller than 20 microns. That's just the way it is. And let me continue on here. Okay, so that oil was drained. It was refilled with a flush treatment. It was run 15 minutes at a moderate speed, like 1500 RPM, just to make the oil splash around in the system. Basically clean the inside of the engine. It was drained again. A second flush treatment was done, except this time it was done for 45 minutes. And was drained out again. New filter put in. And the third time it was refilled with 10% Marvel's Mystery Oil. And the company suggested that you can use up to 25% of their product with no ill effect, without any ill effects. And car was driven about 80 miles and it was resampled again. And lab reported back that the ISO code was 18-17-14. That's about 6 times less on the particle count. The lab that did this did a pore blockage test, which means it counts the particle size on like 10 different ranges, more than just that 3-digit number. And the 6 micron size had like 9,500 particles, and it went down to 1,500 after 2 flush treatments. And the oil was initially drained before the 2 flush treatments. So basically 3 oil changes, the particles went from 9,500 to 1,500. That's a significant difference, considering State Farm Insurance says that there was nothing wrong with the oil and this dirt contamination never happened. It's just bad faith on them to cover up and manipulate the information. See, on my second oil test, the iron went down, but the lead and copper went up because this dirt is sandpapering the bushing in the turbo, and it's wearing on the crankshaft bearings. Okay, after I got that lab report back, I went out and I drove the car a while until it was screaming hot. Until that oil was screaming hot, and it was pushing the oil through the oil cooler to clean the dirt that had settled in it. And there's no way to drain the oil cooler on this vehicle. And this oil change had 180 miles on it. When it was resampled, and the ISO code come back 16-15-13. So right now I'm looking at 4 to 5 oil changes, and I talked to a shop here in town, and they said it's $80 for an oil change, and if you add the flush treatment to it, you can add about another $40 labor to that for the amount of time involved. And since this number is 16-15-13 it's considered to be normal after 5,000 miles of use, but since it only had less than 200 miles, it would be excessively dirty, so it was drained again. And this was 9/14/2013 is when it was drained the last time, just a couple of days ago. So I find it very, very unlikely that this never happened. These numbers are very abnormal for any engine, unless somebody just run it 20,000 miles without an oil change, without having an air cleaner in it. I have seen engines that had dirt in them, but that's because the air filter was completely clogged up, just like your vacuum gets. I mean, you have to change the bag on your vacuum to get the dirt out of it, right, or empty the cup. It's the same situation here. Here's my numbers. This is a very expensive engine to repair. To get it taken out of the car, tore down, washed out, put back together, it's going to cost me around $12,000. By the time the machine shop knocks the valves out in the pre-chambers and does whatever they need to do. I mean, this is not a $300 engine. You just can't call the junkyard and say, send me another one, because they don't have them. It was only used in 2-year models. They're very hard to obtain. And I've got a chart here on the ISO cleanliness code. So I started out right here at 20, which means 5,000 to 10,000 particles per milliliter. Then this number went down to right here after 2 oil changes. And then it come down a couple more numbers after the last time. And I have similar results from an automatic transmission, which took did a filter change, washed out the pan, and then run it a while. Then we did a fluid exchange on it, run it a while, did another fluid exchange, run it a little longer, tested it again, and it was still too dirty for continued use. And then a remote filter was added to the system after another fluid change, and within about 200 miles it started to work better. So it's my opinion that I'm going to have to fabricate some kind of custom filtration system to clean the crap out of the oil, or tear it down completely. But in the meantime, all this dirt going through it is just shaving miles off its useful life. So I don't agree with what these people over at State Farm had to say. I've got some very expensive filters here. These are OEM type filters. None of the stores around here even carry this. Show you what it looks like. This is not the traditional oil filter that you put on a car that just screws on. It's not them little teacup ones. It holds a lot of crap. This part down here is the full flow part. It's rated at between 17 and 20 microns. And this part up here is a bypass cartridge. It doesn't really have a rating, but it's intended to filter out smaller particles. But it won't filter out less than 10 microns, and I know this. To buy this filter from the dealership, you're going to pay $20 to $30 depending on the dealership. And there's several different brands. This one here is called a Molly. It's another good quality one. You can go someplace like AutoZone and get one of their garbage filters, but the type of paper in them won't hold the dirt, and it's just basically printer paper folded up down in that lower section like I showed you, and it just takes the large particles off. A good quality filter is absorbent. It'll catch the large particles, plus some of the smaller particles will get trapped in the media. It's I believe they call it synthetic media, but it's more like a cotton ball, whereas some of the cheaper ones are just like plain paper. Just what sticks to the surface is it. It's not. It doesn't really clean it. So I take my $80 oil change. That company does not even carry a filter for it. And they told me if I brought in my own filter, they'd give me $2 credit. So right now I've got about 5 or 6 oil changes at $80. I don't know what that adds up to be. Plus I have to buy my own filter for $20. So I'm looking at $500 to $600 just in oil changes. That's just one thing. That doesn't indicate the amount of work I've had done, or the need to replace the fuel injectors, because all that soap and crap that was in the fuel tank has just gummed them up, and they don't spray right now. All these jobs are labor intensive, and basically State Farm told me I could pound sand, that they wasn't going to cover this. Their little team of experts has gotten together and said, well, we don't think this happened. Our expert come out and said that he couldn't find anything wrong, but as I observed him taking samples out of one vehicle, he was skimming the surface, hoping it would come out clean. And I was very offended about what he had to say. They sucked my fluids down to an unsafe level and come back in a month and wanted to collect another sample after they told me to top them off. So obviously, you know, that would be a compromised sample, and once they collected their sample, those fluids were discarded, because once they collected their sample, it gave me a free will to wash them out. And the entire time they're stating poor maintenance practices, neglect, basically using contributory negligence to pass the blame upon myself for, I guess they said, not locking the vehicles, but there's a lot of people out here that can unlock a vehicle without a key. It ain't that hard to do. I mean, you can go to the auto store and buy a Slim Jim for less than $20, or buy it on Amazon. It's not that hard to obtain. But my lab work here, it's alarming how my numbers went from 20 to 18 to 16 just by changing the oil with over maybe 200 miles at the most. And like I said on my automatic transmission, that I just kept changing the fluid and changing the fluid. I finally added a very fine filter, and it finally cleaned it up, but it cost me over $1,000 in service work to get the dirt out of it. And the same is going to happen with this diesel engine. I've got a Toyota car out here. The engine's totaled on it. I mean, it's still drivable, but it don't run like it should. And the entire time, State Farm says that you're just out for a payday or whatever, just making excuses. They have no intention to stand good on a claim. And I found that out because I have 4 claims with them. The first one they would not investigate. There was another insurance party involved. They would not pursue that. 2 years later, I got my car in a body shop, and the work did not restore it to its original condition. The color doesn't match. The trim piece is coming off. There was a piece inside the door that covers the wiring. I can see the wiring when I open the door, so it wasn't installed correctly. And I'm completely disappointed with all the dealings I had with them. It's purely bad faith, and whatever you see on television is a load of crap. Thanks for watching, and you're welcome to leave a comment below or a thumbs up like. Thank you.